Hello divas, dudes and dolls, I'm Caricature and welcome back to my tenacious, timely, and tactile little review show, Very Slay, where we go over each and every main stage runway look on Canada's Drag Race Season 5. We have 11 looks to go over today from this full cast based on the theme of time and place. So basically, anything. It's a pretty broad runway theme. I do really appreciate what they try to do with this, so it's mostly picking an era, picking an event, something that can say something about their own aesthetic or their own point of view, their culture, their background, whatever the case may be, really whatever they wanted to say. This is a pretty open theme, so I do think that kind of makes it hard to judge. So because of that, we will be going more so over the aesthetics of the look, the construction, details like that, and how well the look brings together their concept versus how well it fits the theme, because that's very arbitrary. For those who are unfamiliar with the format of the show, if I think that the look met the brief, got the job done, but wasn't anything super impressive, it's an okay. If I loved it a ton, it's a slay. And if I think it has something lacking and could have used a little zhuzh, we give it an A. That's all in efforts to find my weekly slay of the day, my favorite look of the entire episode. Whichever look takes that top spot today will go head to head against the Virgo Queen's look from last week to battle it out to be my slay of the season. Whichever look is in that title position, once we've crowned a winner, I'll be making a little illustration of said look. And sneak peeks of that illustration can be found over on my Patreon starting at my $3 tier level. There will also be a bonus video going over the unaired looks that will be coming after the season wraps. Be sure to join as a good Judy or Judy at $5 a month if you want to access that, because there's gonna be a whole bunch of those coming pretty soon with all these seasons that are wrapping up. With that out of the way, be sure as always to like, comment, and subscribe, all those lovely little things if you want to keep all kinds of drag TV fashion coverage in your subscription feeds. Now, let's get into the looks. Alrighty, first up we have Michaela Couture, whose look celebrates her Caribbean culture and is specifically a carnival festival look, and I love the gem work in this. The headpiece, the bodysuit, the color palette in general is just really gorgeous. The huge back piece, all the feathers, it's just a feast for the eyes, and especially on her skin tone, this is stunning. Whoever made this bodysuit, props to you, because it's gorgeous work. I'm a really big fan of it already. I cannot wait to see whatever she wears each week on this runway, because you know as a couture, she's going to kill it every single time. It's gonna be a slay. Then we have Tiffany Ann Co, whose look is a reference to the Vietnamese myth of how Vietnamese people were essentially created. I thought this look was stunning. I love the hair and the headpiece. I love the color of the gown. The gown itself I think is fairly simple, but it is gorgeous nonetheless. And I have these gold nail thingies, so I was like, oh, look at that. We love an Amazon accessory girly. So I think this is a really well put together, well crafted look. The concept was so clearly delivered. It's a slay. Up next we have Jaylene Time. What an episode for her. I loved how much of a feature there was on Indigenous cultures in Canada, because that's one thing that I think they've been hinting at more and more the last few years. Really powerful in terms of these moments that they allowed. The workroom moment between Jaylene and Xana was beautiful in terms of informational viewing. I had never heard of the 60s scoop until this season when Jaylene mentioned it last episode. I didn't really know what that meant, so her explaining it in full this episode and everything else that came with it, phenomenal. Like, I adore this woman. Going over the look, I think it is really powerful having this look represented on the runway. I do think that the look, however, is a little simple in terms of the elevating it into a drag space. As much as I love the representation and the cultural element of this look, I do think it could have been oomph just a smidge, but I don't know how the Métis culture is in terms of making alterations to a garment like that or embellishing a garment like that. If that's the case and it's horribly offensive to suggest that, I apologize. But either way, I'm giving this look a slay, because the whole impact of this episode, it was just incredible. Her presence on this show is going to have, I think that's something that's worth really acknowledging and giving high praise to. Up next, we have the Virgo Queen, whose look celebrates her Afro-Caribbean culture. Loved the silhouette of this. I loved that it's this very traditional kind of European, but also Caribbean aesthetic in terms of the costume design, but the print has more of the Afro mix in there. I think it's just a really gorgeous color palette together. I think it looks great on her. I love the hair. I think the overall visual and the overall just like storyline that she's putting out there on the runway this week, like Jaylene, is really impactful. It's gonna be a slay for me. And up next we have Helena Poison, who's doing this little 1950s demon moment. The makeup, immaculate. I love the color story here. I love the hair with it all. I love the prosthetic work. The only thing I have critiques with this outfit is that it's really simple. It's well done, but it's just an incredibly basic silhouette, and I wish there would have been just an element that just pushed it a little more to give it a wow factor. It didn't really have that for me. I'm gonna give her look overall an okay. Then we have Perla, who's giving us this 1880s Jack the Ripper fashion victim, and there's something about this that's very Vivienne Westwood, but also just like a hint of Alexander McQueen. Very here for it. I loved the stonework for the gash. The detailing is really my favorite part of the whole thing. The stonework on the shoe, the stonework in the hair, just the styling overall, I think is really, really well done. And Perla's direction as a fashion-centric queen really showed off this week, and I think her winning the challenge was incredibly well-deserved. It's a slay. Then up next, it's Minnie Wang, who is paying homage to Juicebox's entrance look from episode 1 of the first season of Canada's Drag Race, including her bracelet getting stuck on her fishnets. Very funny, very campy. I think it's such a weird pull to choose that specific moment to be the one that she references for this. She does it really well, and I think it shows a little bit of an insight into Minnie's brain, because Minnie kind of does like stupid comedy drag, and I love that. Her makeup here as well, I adored it. I thought it was absolutely stunning. I'm gonna give this look a soft slay because I'm not super impressed with it in terms of the sort of Victoria's Secret angel fantasy, but it's done very, very well. Then up next we have Xana, whose look I love the color of. I think the little titty plate thing is done really well. The proportion is really accurate and actually like really flattering for her silhouette. Loved the shoes. I loved a lot of the pieces of this. I didn't really like the part that came up to the neck. I thought that part of the look just really wasn't super flattering and really kind of threw the proportions off a little bit. But I think overall, it's a solid look. I'm gonna give her a soft slay. Then up next we have Sanjina the Bitch Queen, who is supposed to be doing Amsterdam, like red light district, sex worker fantasy. All I have to say is she's very lucky that she was safe this week. I thought for sure, based on the video and this look, she was gonna be in the bottom. This look to me, I think is the weakest on the runway this week. I don't think it really says Amsterdam at all. And she did one of my absolute biggest pet peeves on Drag Race. And that's when a queen has a reveal look, they walk out to do the runway and immediately reveal into whatever is underneath. And like always, I think the outfit underneath needs to be a real wow factor compared to what was on top. And I don't think this really says anything different. So I'm gonna give her look an okay, because it's a clean execution, but I was disappointed with it. Then we have Terra Nova, who's giving us a Newfoundland or a specific political reference in this look that I'm very unfamiliar with. I really like the hair and the glasses with this. There's something about it that's very like kind of 60s secretary that I'm really here for. I think the proportions of this are really cute too. The elevated shoulders, the bow tie, the pins and buttons, all of that. I do think it is a little small scale. Again, I do understand the lack of access to resources and connectivity. I think just in general, if you isolate her look on its own, it is lacking some areas of elevation and there are some fit issues with it. So I am gonna give her an okay. And finally, we have Oh My God, who, like Xana, chose to go with a futuristic take on this challenge. She went like post-apocalyptic desert, Mad Max, Dune, somewhere in that realm. I was actually really surprised that this was her look, because I wouldn't expect something like this from her. I loved the makeup here. I thought it was really refreshing to see her do something different than a kind of her classic Uma face. Overall, it's one of the more impressive looks on the runway, in my opinion. I really liked the direction she took with it. I liked the storytelling. I liked the really dry skin patches. I thought that was kind of a cool, interesting angle to take this, that because we have no water and it's a permanent drought, like everyone is just dry and flaky all the time. And I think the way she delivered it and told the story, it really nailed the brief. So for me, this is gonna be a slay. Okie dokie, and now it is time to pick my slay of the day, my favorite look of the entire episode. And I think this week I'm going to have to agree with the judges and give the win here to Perla. I thought this look was really, really well done. It's a fashion reference that I really appreciated, and it's an era of fashion in particular that I really love to draw. So I think this would be a very, very fun one to put into consideration for that piece. So let's take this look now and put it head to head against our current slay of the season from the Virgo Queen last week. And I loved both of these looks, but I do think Perla's has more potential for something really interesting. So Perla's look is going to unseat the Virgo Queen and hold that top spot going into episode 3. We're down to our top 10, and next week, it looks like it's gonna be a lot of performance looks. So we will see on the runway if there's a new theme. If not, we're just gonna have some lip syncs to talk about, and I won't be surprised if Perla is gonna hold that top spot again, if that is the case. As always, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all those lovely little things, and go out there, be sure to stay kind, stay queer, and make sure that your day is very slay.